Selling on Amazon is great because you get sales sort of on autopilot that just come and you don't have to like physically take their order at a register. But the challenge is it's not always just this even every day is the same and it's all going to be the same. It tends to be somewhat of a roller coaster ride sometimes. And sometimes that roller coaster has a huge up and it has a huge down. So that is what comes to with seasonal fluctuations. So we get this question quite a bit from folks who sometimes are taken aback, and you might have seen this in Facebook groups and forums, so like right after Prime Day or right after Q4. All of a sudden, everyone's super excited and riding that high of increased sales, and all of a sudden, hey, it feels like it's really slow. Why is it so slow? Some of that is just dealing with the seasonal nature of selling on Amazon and how people go out and buy products. So you may think about yourself and how you go out and buy products. You might buy a little bit more, right before Christmas holiday. You might buy more before kids go back to school. You might buy more when there's Prime Day. Or if you have a seasonal product that's in like the gardening niche, and the spring and summer is going to be your time, and it's probably going to slow down in the fall. So it just depends on what products you're selling. There's a variety of reasons for that. So we'll go into some things you could do to help yourself. And these are things that are good, not just for newer sellers who maybe aren't used to these type of seasonal fluctuations, but good reminders for experienced sellers. So with that, let me go ahead and share my screen. So this is our Amazon crisis kit. My name is Kevin Sanderson from My Amazon Guy. And we put together this crisis kit, which is basically, call it your first aid kit, your emergency kit. I like to call it somewhat of an insurance policy of what you can do to help yourself if some of the crises that dealing with Amazon come around. And we'll have a link to this in the description down below in our table of contents, whether it's dealing with the buy box, sudden sales drops, brand registry problems, seasonality, which we're about to talk to here. We're going to talk about a variety of different issues that come up with selling on Amazon, review bombs, intellectual property, listing suppression, hijacking, account suspension, all dirty words that you probably don't want to have to think about. And so the best way to do is to prepare yourself for the inevitable might happens. And so if something does happen, that you're set up and prepared for it. So you can get this free guide, link it in the description down below. So let's talk about the seasonality. The problem that oftentimes sellers come into is the ebb and flow of demand before a peak season. And some of that is, what are the big issues that could happen? So some of it could be just you have stockouts or you have too much afterwards. Whenever you have a ebb and flow. So for example, I sell a lot of giftable type products. And so my products tend to do very well in Q4 and some of the giftable holidays like Valentine's Day or Mother's Day, Father's Day. So think of giftable type holidays. I do well then, I'll see a sales bump, and then it drops off afterwards. And so a lot of times sellers also have the same issues with like Prime Day. It gets busy, then all of a sudden it just drops off. Most products do well during Q4. So especially if you have a giftable type product, it does really well starting with Black Friday, Cyber Monday, tends to do well in the month of December. Then once Christmas happens, kind of falls off. And you might do pretty well after Christmas, the week after Christmas, the first couple of weeks of January tend to be better than average just because people are using their gift cards. So those are the type of things you have to think about with, what is the demand you're going to need for your product, but not have too much. You don't want to just overdo it or all of a sudden get so excited, of which we would love to think. Every year at the holiday season, I tell myself it should be like this all the time. And unfortunately, it's not. So if you want to get to the point where your seasonal business is what your evergreen business is like, you're going to have to grow your business in general. Don't get too wrapped up into that. You're going to have to start thinking about, like, for at least the products that you sell currently, what do you need to get through the holidays and get past that, but then not overdo it and shoot yourself in the foot with all of a sudden you have all this extra inventory after the off season. So you want to make sure that you have enough product to get through the busy season and into the off season with not overdoing it. Then you want to review, when are those busy seasons going to be for you? And so if you've been selling for over a year, you've probably noticed some of them, but you may want to just at least review what are the days where I had a little bit of a bump. And you can look into, your business reports on Amazon and take a look at that. So is it post-holiday New Year? We talked about here, there's a surge in demand sometimes for health, fitness products, as well as organizational products. So, hey, I'm going to get more organized in the new year, or I'm going to be more fit. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to get stronger. What are the things people tell themselves as New Year's resolutions? Those tend to do well in January. But then also, people are coming off of that demand of they got a bunch of gift cards for Christmas or whatever holiday they celebrate, and they're using those. those. Then, you get into Q2, you've got the spring and summer prep. Think about Mother's Day, Father's Day, the Amazon Prime Day was recently 4 days. We don't know what it will be in the future. So you may not know the exact date it's going to happen. Like Prime Day, they usually don't announce the exact dates until a couple weeks before, but it's coming. And so what are those things are coming? Or, if you have back to school products, it may be a major peak for office supplies, electronics, backpacks, dorm essentials. So what are things people need when they go back to school? Sometimes clothing, especially, child sizes, oftentimes we'll see a bump as well. So think about once you have that knowledge of, okay, these are the products or these are the time periods I really need to focus on, forecast your data, optimize your listing for that season. For example, if you can have, like we gave some examples in here of like cozy winter blanket. Now, Amazon doesn't like if you say great Christmas gift, but what you can say is like, if you have a blanket, you could call it a cozy winter blanket, which maybe people are still buying that blanket in the spring and the summer even, but maybe just acknowledging that in the summertime, it's a lightweight summer throw blanket. So using terminology that makes sense to it. And so your image stack might show someone the blanket wrapped around them next to a fire with hot chocolate, for example, if it's the Q4 season and it's cold outside, whereas maybe you show them outside at night reading a book or something with their blankets, or they just have the blanket on the couch and it's not as cold seeming and they don't look like they're trying to bundle up and stay warm. And so that might be what you do for the summertime. Then you want to look at your inventory and logistics. Always give yourself a buffer. Sometimes people will say like, Amazon will usually give us these deadlines of, hey, if you want to have your product in for Black Friday, it must be in by X date. Take those to be a suggestion and not necessarily a must, but better to do it by that date than later. But if it comes down to, hey, you just got the product arrived, from your suppliers and, you're going to get it in a week after Amazon's suggestion, still get it in. I would say still get it in. Just know that the sooner you get it in, the better. But it's better to have, in my personal opinion, in my experience, better to have the product in the warehouse and then at least hope it gets checked in time and fulfillment center transferred in time to get to the customers and be available for sale. At least hope that it gets there in time. So it's still better to have something than nothing. And then, look at your promotions. Do you want to run coupons, have deals and things of that nature? Just know you get a lot of window shoppers before peak periods. So you get a lot of, say, window shoppers, meaning people clicking around but not buying anything. That might be happening in October and early November before Christmas, before Black Friday and Cyber Monday. That might be happening the week before Prime Day. People are just curious. They know maybe deals are coming up. So they're just curious, what products are they interested in? And then what might they get a deal for later? You don't want to just ignore seasonality because that might be the time you make your money. In fact, the term Black Friday comes from old school where brick and mortar retailers oftentimes didn't make money until Black Friday, which is late November. And so that's why they called it black because, the old accounting, the red was in the negative, the black was in the positive. So they weren't in the black until Black Friday. Those are just things to think about. And then you also don't want to lose ground to your competitors. So your competitors they're making sure that they're set up. You don't want to let them get an edge on you. And then all of a sudden that momentum is carrying them past the peak season. All things to think about is your listing set up? Do you have the inventory? Are you set up and ready to go for those peak periods? And again, there's a variety of other things that can happen on Amazon. And so we highly suggest you download our free Amazon Crisis Kit, which again, we have a link to down below. Again, my name is Kevin Sanderson from My Amazon Guy, and thank you for joining us and happy selling.
I know the Amazon grind can be overwhelming. From account issues to low traffic, it's a lot to handle. That's where My Amazon Guy steps in. Scan the QR code or click the link, and let's work together to boost your sales and make your life easier.